Well, and like schools have the worst toilet paper.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's like
God, I don't even remember. I don't remember the last time that I've used toilet paper from
my
school. Toilet.
school. My high school had the sheets, like you would have to pull out like sheets at a time. It wasn't like
Okay.
a roll.
Oh, like paper napkins at like a Jack in the
Yes,
Box.
yes, that
To wipe
exactly
your
that.
Jack in the Box.
hmm
All
That's
right,
what
Jackie
it was
in the box. Man.
like.
No, yeah. You know what I hate when you're at a bathroom and they're out of toilet paper and you have to use one of those seat
Oh
covers.
yeah, I just had to do that yesterday.
It's like scratching your pussy. Like,
And you want to know what? I did it at an In-N-Out.
oh my
And
God.
I was so offended because I was like, In-N-Out, you guys are usually on your shit.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Why is there no toilet paper?
This is a Christian company.
Exactly.
Like, I thought you would be at least having toilet paper in here.
They're like, we have the Whole Foods. Nobody even needs to wipe their butt here. It's disgusting.
I do feel like now in San Francisco, though, going to bathrooms, I've enjoyed the experience because the gender neutral bathrooms, they've kind of upped their game.
Yeah.
I haven't fell into not having toilet paper, it being kind of extra messy. I haven't.
No, they're much cleaner.
Yeah, very
They're
positively
yeah.
represented that.
I really do love a gender neutral bathroom.
Yeah.
It is nice.
I like running into people into a gender neutral bathroom. It's like, oh hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just washing my hands like a person does after using the bathroom, and maybe I am fixing my tits. Go ahead and watch. Do you like it? Like, I feel like we have this moment. And he's like, "Bitch, I'm not looking at your tits. My girlfriend is outside. I'm just trying to work it out."
Just trying to connect. Just there for the human connection, you know?
Yeah. And I feel like they have good lighting in there too.
I feel like that is the perfect meet cute. Should
Yeah.
we write that movie where they
Yeah.
meet at a gender neutral, like washing their hands?
Wow, that's
After
so like
using a gender
Gen
neutral bathroom.
Z.
It really is.
That's so like young.
Yeah, it is.
We're so young.
Yeah, and hip. Very young and hip. Not chuggy as I think they're calling us millennials now.
Two people. Pronouns they, ze.
Oh my god.
Meet in a gender neutral
We're
bathroom.
out here. We are aware. We know things happening.
We're all about it. Okay, so tell me. So Remy, there's so much that I want to ask you because, and so I'm just gonna spill it out. Let's start before Remy. With you,
BR.
You are dating. You are with a white man.
I am.
You are with a white man, and you are not white.
I'm not.
And that may mean that certain problems may arise if there's an absence of consciousness or maybe tone deafness or whatever. So I guess I'm really interested in how both of you navigate the space of being from two different cultures and still feeling respected and seen in your own identity.
You know, I think what's really interesting between my partner and I is that we both grew up in white households because I'm adopted. I was adopted by a white family. So there are a lot of, I definitely have like an awareness of his obliviousness of things sometimes
because you've experienced it.
Yeah,
with your parents.
I've been surrounded by it for a really long time, which I think is also why it wasn't difficult for me to be in a relationship with a white man. I've dated white men before. This is by far the best. He's the best white.
The best
I've ever
white
dated.
man.
Yeah.
The best white.
He is. He's great. He's just very like consciously aware and like very open and always learning. Definitely has blind spots. Has definitely missed some things. But I'm trying to think of like moments where he has felt maybe like, oh wow, I am with a Black woman. And I think it's often like how he's perceived by other men. Like there's been times where we've just been like out having pizza or something and someone will come up and just be like, wow, your relationship is so beautiful. And it's consistently men that do that will come up and be like, wow, look at you, this is so beautiful, we love to see an interracial relationship. And we're just like, can you go away? Like, yeah, this was not supposed to be that deep.
So what does he feel like when you're saying like how he's perceived? How does he feel he's perceived in the situation? But also, how do you feel perceived in that situation where men are always coming up to him saying that?
You know, I think the only time I feel a type of way about it when Black men like give him props for like being with a Black woman. And then I get frustrated because I'm like, well, why is he getting props for this though? Am I like undesirable? Because that feels like the implication, you know, when they're like, I guess like he's getting praise and I'm just over here like, it's not like it's so, is it so unheard of? Is it so hard to be with a Black woman that you're like, wow, you're doing what we couldn't do? Like it just feels, it's so rude to me. I think it makes him feel cool.
He ain't doing shit. All right. All right. He ain't doing shit.
I'm just like, look, a man is a man. Y'all suck. He's still dumb.
It's similar, I'm sure you feel when people go up to him when he has Remy or when, you know, when he's he's being dad and they're like, wow, look at you.
And not just that,
being
you
a dad.
Know what's so interesting is that when he goes out with our daughter by himself, people think he adopted a baby. Like it doesn't even cross their mind that he might
calling the police. This motherfucker stole this baby. Yeah,
they're just like he had a college professor come up and was like, oh my gosh, you adopted. That's so beautiful. Can you tell me about the process? I'm a professor. I've been thinking about interracially adopting or transracially adopting. That's what it's called. And he was like, actually, she's not adopted. This is my baby. Like, this is my daughter. My partner is Black. She's a mixed race child. Yeah. And also he was like, and don't transracially adopt. It's adoption industry because he knows because I've talked to him so much about it. Totally. The adoption industry is, it's for profit, very sick. Don't do it. Look into it a lot more.
Let's so then at least he knows about this. So at least he's aware. He's having consciousness of where there are disparities between, you know, someone who's white that is raising someone of color. So actually I would love to talk about this more because, you know, only recently have I been hearing more things about transracial adoption. And so please, if you could explain people who are listening that maybe don't know what it is.
So transracial adoption is when a child is adopted by a family outside of their race.
And which you are an example.
I am an example of this. I am transracially adopted. And like, just to put a pin in this really quickly, a lot of people think that like being transracial is like Rachel Dolezal. And that shit is so insulting to transracial adoptees. We've been transracial adoptees for our whole lives. It's been going on for a very long time. And the way that people just co-opted it and assigned it to this woman
they're seeing it as a transitional thing.
Yeah, as if and which I understand why they're doing it. I understand that it like makes sense to them, but the idea like this has already existed. It already has. It's already a thing. Pick another word.
Yeah. You can't just own this. This is already a thing.
The way they just appropriated our title for
call
something
it like
else.
Melanin binary something.
I don't
like
care
you
what
moving
you
across
call
the
it.
spectrum of how much melanin. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, so that is what it is. It's
which is why you're used to maybe being around white people who may be a little tone deaf because
because I grew up in a household that was very, very tone deaf, very colorblind. Ugh, it makes me nauseous even like thinking about it.
Let's talk about before we go on. Sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
I feel like colorblind. Let's talk about that term colorblind because we hear people say like I don't see color, I'm colorblind. And how do you feel about that statement?
It's not true.
Yeah.
And it's so easily proved to not be true because anybody that says it, if you ask them, okay, so if someone just came up to you right now and stole your purse and left, how would you describe them to the police? You're not colorblind. Stop saying that.
Yeah.
It is just like absolutely ridiculous to me that anybody would say that. The idea that you don't see color means that like you don't see value in the differences that we all have, which is very weird to me too. Or you don't see
the pain and the oppression that someone's faced and understand where they are right now today.
Of course. Yeah. And that, I think that obviously is like, I guess like I always assume that part is implied, but it's not because people are still out here using colorblind all the time.
Yeah, I don't see color.
But like when you don't see color, like you're missing so much about the identity of a person just because you don't have it. Because let's be honest, it's the people without color that are the ones that are saying they're colorblind.
Exactly, because, you know, and of course I'm not Black, but a lot of people that I've talked to, their Blackness is more salient when it comes to their identity. People see that more first, and then that influences how they're perceived and how people navigate their relationships with them. Therefore, that influences your experiences and who you are today.
Right.
And so we do need to acknowledge that to understand where you're coming from and your perspective. And so I think it's like a modern racism, modern ignorant racism to say I'm colorblind, because then you're neglecting to acknowledge all of that someone of color went through.
And I think we're going to go all over the place. What's so
I love it because we still
frustrating-
need to talk about your white man.
We're
and
just
I want
putting
to talk
a pin
about
in a
some
lot of things.
problem with that. And then I want to talk about you raising a mixed child, you know. So
Yeah.
we boop, boop,
We have-
boop.
yeah, I know. We
This
got
is
a
how
lot to
women
cover.
converse. This is how women go. Boop, boop, boop,
I
boop.
know.
Boop, boop, boop.
But I think like specifically something that a conversation I wish more people were having about racism is like what racism looks like. I think people are so quick to deny the existence of racism because in their mind racism is like
A
I don't
violent physical
yeah,
act.
violent like lynching somebody or
Partitioning people by
yeah,
the color.
a Klan meeting, like a lot of like very like severe like this representation of like
Yeah.
what they've understood you know, segregation to be and all of these like vivid memories that they have from 8th grade of like, well, that's what racism is and I'm not that.
Yeah.
But I also like will cross the street if there's a black man walking towards me on the sidewalk.
Exactly. And I think that shows the degrees. It's like, you know, with petty theft to grand larceny,
Right.
there's like you're saying lynching.
There's
and,
different-
and
there's
things like
severity.
That, to
It's a spectrum.
microaggressions.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's a spectrum of, yeah, definitely.
And so it's so frustrating, I think, when white people are like, well, I'm not racist. Like, and they use the whole like, well, so many of my friends are this or so many of my friends are that. I'm like, first of all, you would never call one of those friends to like come and have this conversation with you because you know that they wouldn't co-sign it. So why you're even telling me that is a waste of time. It's very annoying. But it's so frustrating when they're like, when you start to ask them like, well, what does racism mean to you? And then it's like, you know, being refused services or at a restaurant or someone, you know, explicitly saying an offensive slur or something like that. And it's so much more than that. It's like the assumption that I'm not as educated as you because you're assuming that I came from an upbringing that I didn't come from, or like many, like there are so many microaggressions that are like seriously racist that people think, well, like that's just not that bad. So like, I don't think it's racist.
Yeah, like just real quick to give an example. Last night I did a show in Fresno and a woman came up to me after the show. She goes, I love Indian weddings. And it's just like, what the fuck, bitch? Like, what are you telling me this for? Like, this is so random.
And they really think that it's cultural appreciation.
Yeah,
they
it's
really
like, hey,
think
I'm appreciating your culture. I'm appreciating. It's like, you know what? I'm in my 30s and I'm not married yet, bitch. What, you know, like I haven't had an Indian wedding, and I'm offended now because all you're just connecting me to something that's Indian. You don't even know how much of my culture I express or embody, and it's just a weird thing.
There's a lot of assumptions there that are so
Yeah.
frustrating because like it is so easy in my mind to find a point of connection with somebody. Why would that be the go-to?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Because it's you assuming that that's something. Now it's like an identity politics thing where it's like, because this is an identity vector of mine, you're assuming that now this is this because that's my identity.
Exactly.
But it's like, actually, I'm not that. And now we kind of went backwards in our whole interpersonal exchange.
Yeah.
Now I think you're weird.
And I gotta go.
Yeah. Racist bitch. Bye, Karen.
And they really will, and they'll just stare at you like, don't you appreciate how much I appreciate you? Don't you?
It's like
I
You
listen to
People.
your
Have you seen
jokes.
You People with Julia Louis-Dreyfus playing that tone deaf mom character, which she did so well. But
she did. But that
oh
was
my
it
God.
was of that movie, because that movie was fine.
Yes.
It started so strong, and then the ending really just didn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
It felt like it was rushed. Like we were like, oh, we spent so much time on the first half of this movie. We're not really sure how to end it.
Yeah,
And then they just like threw something in there and slapped together a wedding.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was so odd.
Sorry, I'll say spoiler alert. And
oh.
Faggot, whatever. It's a Netflix movie. Y'all get on it. All right?
My bad. I didn't even think about that.
If you ain't watching shit on Netflix within the first 3 days, what the fuck are you doing?
Exactly.
You know?
This isn't my problem. But yeah, she was like such a good representation of that character. Like something that I think about all the time are when I'll encounter a white woman in the wild. I'm just kidding. And they'll always feel compelled if they like bring up a black woman in conversation. They'll be like, and she was this beautiful black woman.
Yeah.
It's like, doesn't have to do with anything. Like it was just, you know, somebody who, I don't know, rang them up at Costco. Like it's just not even pertinent to the story.
You'll be like, God, traffic was so bad. You know, Maya Angelou, she used to drive a vehicle.
And I'm just like, was that important? Was that an important part of the story? And I think what's so frustrating is like when they're specifically saying, because it is specifically like the phrase, like beautiful black women. And I've heard it so many times from so many different white women. And I want to be like, we can't all be that beautiful.
Yeah.
Like we are. Black women are beautiful. I love black women. I find beauty in all black women. But it just is so like consistently when it's every single like every single encounter that I have with somebody and they're like, and this beautiful Black woman came and said this, or this beautiful Black woman walked by and complimented my outfit, or like whatever it is. I'm just like,
I actually feel like, and maybe I'm sensitive to this, but I feel like that's racist also, because I feel like that is normalizing beauty as white beauty and therefore
like,
othering it.
Yeah.
But,
So like,
but
she's
you're
the
Black
exception.
beauty. Yes. So let's go beauty, but Black beauty. But if it's just a white person, you're beautiful.
Yeah.
But if it's Black beauty, so it's other, therefore less than. I feel like farther away from the white center, which is where the power is, and I just don't like. That's racist. If someone said that should not be with you, I'm like, you know what? That's actually racist. You're othering her beauty right now, and therefore lessening it.
You know what I'm like loving? This is what I'm picturing as we're talking about this. It's just like, you know those like price guns that like price things in like stores. It's just like you walking around with a price gun, like that's racist and that's racist and that's racist. And you know what? I don't like that. That's racist.
I love that. I love that. And you're just like tolerating it, and I'm like, I'm not having this. Fucking no. This is what grad school's done to me. I'm telling you, now that I read some shit now, I'm like, oh my God, I can see everything is fucking racist. Everything's racist. Like even this new article I read, Massachusetts is thinking about passing a law where people who are incarcerated can lessen their time being incarcerated by donating an organ or donating something.
What?
And it's so ridiculous that this is even on the table, because it's like, let's think about who is marginalized and consistently incarcerated and who is going to be the victim, or, you know, just who's benefiting from this and who is being placed at a disadvantage,
right?
And who is at a privilege. So it's like these people who are already at a disadvantage, people of color, that are placed in incarceration. And now you're like, hey, can we have your organs too so you can like live a shorter life? But like, whatever. And
how did I
like,
not know about this? That is so...
It's so
awful.
crazy. And it's just like people are becoming, people of color are like literally, I feel like in that, it just, and it's not just people of color. Of course, there's impoverished communities that suffer from being incarcerated too, but it is anyone who is disadvantaged is now further disadvantaged, and their bodies are being like used, which is crazy. And then I feel like that is totally a race issue.
Yeah, that is racist.
But it's not. It's
the prison
not being
system
sold
absolutely
as that.
gets the sticker.
Super
you know,
duper.
we know that.
Super duper. So racist. Super duper. That's what happens when you hit the vape pen before the show. You can't be talking about problematic things, saying super duper, all right? But
super duper.
Super duper racist.
The prison system is super duper racist. I'll never forget this moment for the rest of my life. We were talking about.
You told Remy about it. Mommy, is that the girl? Is that the girl? Is it super duper?
Oh my god. Okay, white family, white parents. What was the question? You asked me a question.
Yes, so I want to know the problems that you. What is?
Oh yeah. So
where do you find Ben is challenged? I'm sorry. Well, let me read
sorry.
Where
so we were talking about colorblind, right? We were talking about colorblind.
Yes.
And like, yeah, they were. My parents were very much of the opinion of like everybody has the same opportunities. Everybody, like, all you have to do is like work hard and be. I mean, and like work hard and like be honest and whatnot, whatever. A bunch of other morals that like, yeah, everybody hears.
Bootstraps.
Bootstraps. Basically, yes, that's what I was thinking. In order to like survive in life and be happy. And I think whenever I'd approach my parents about like racism or like the existence of racism, it was really just like a sort of like, oh, well, there's going to be some people that don't like you for the color of your skin. And then that was it. Like that was the talk. It wasn't. There was no like awareness of like sometimes people aren't going to feel safe around you. Sometimes people are going to assume things about you that, you know, you might do something, that you might break the law, or you might not be trustworthy. So like I encountered all of these moments of racism by myself, not knowing how to navigate them, because like my parents were just like not aware enough to validate it. And I think like that is my biggest gripe with transracial adoption, is that race is such an important part of our identities and is so important when it comes to like how other people perceive us. So when you're navigating these terrible times or these frustrating moments, what you seek is understanding. And how can you seek that understanding from a family of people that will never feel that? Mm-hmm. How can you explain to them something that they'll never feel? And how can you expect validation from people that they won't know and they won't see it? That's the thing that I think is so frustrating as well, is that a lot of white adoptive parents don't realize that they are not going to see racism the same way that their kids will, because why would they be looking for something that doesn't exist to them?
Yeah, they're gonna try to look at a situation from an unbiased, like, oh, you were picked on, like, or something happened, and they're not gonna look at it with the bias that maybe
that someone is just doing something specifically because they are hateful.
Yeah, so it sounds like it feels like maybe like a missing puzzle piece when coming to understand your identity if you are a transracial adoptee. Like, did that ever make you feel like you wanted to search for your biological parents?
100%. I wanted to search for my adoptive family, I would say from when I was like, I don't know, probably like 13 until I finally did, when I did a 23andMe a few years ago. And
were your parents, how did that conversation go with your parents?
I never told them. So that's something that happens is there's this like experience for adoptees. It's called like the fog, which is like fear, obligation, and guilt. And so there is this expectation of, and this isn't just transracial adoptees, but I think that's the only group that I am a part of. So it's the only one that I feel comfortable speaking about my experience in this way, is that there is this expectation of gratitude for that you are supposed to have. This idea of like, you have been rescued by these people, you are living a better life. Yeah, you're living a better life, and you should be grateful for everything that they're providing about you. Why do you care about a family that didn't want you? And so, and I just was like,
it's unfortunate, sorry to interrupt, but to say that they didn't want you also, because I think what our society may be forgetting to understand is that systemic problems lead certain families to not be able to have the right to raise their kids, and they're taken away. And so it's not necessarily
they're taken away, and then taxpayer funds are reallocated to other families. Money, which is a major resource that a lot of families that put their children up for adoption need. That same money is going to somebody else
who is deemed appropriate by the system.
Right. By a system that's also white skewed.
Holding back the other people that the baby was taken away from.
So it's just like it's so flawed in so many ways. And so, but yeah, that was essentially what it was just like this belief of like, yeah, you're not, like, these people didn't want you. We want you. You're a member of our family. So like, this is your family now. And it was sometimes spoken, but like mostly implied. And so I never expressed that was something that I would want, because I felt like too guilty to do that.
Yeah.
And so when my dad had passed away, Ben had bought me, my boyfriend, he had bought me a 23andMe, I think like a year or two before my dad had passed away, and I was like too scared to take it. I was like too scared to do it. I just felt really guilty. You know, I didn't know what was going to come of it, and I didn't trust that I wouldn't tell my dad, and so I just kind of wanted to like leave it alone. And then I swear, like a week or two after he passed away, I was like, well, time to do this 23andMe and find out who else is out there. And I did. I found my birth sister. I found some cousins, and now I know all of my siblings. We do Zoom calls on Sundays. I'm missing ours today, but
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. It's not. I also have a show. You know what I mean? But
perfect.
And I miss it. I probably only hop on about once a month now, but it is, and that's been like really validating and like really exciting.
Were your sisters also adopted, or were they?
So I have one sister, and I was the only child that was put up for adoption.
Okay.
So nobody knew that my birth mom was pregnant with me. Nobody was aware. And then from what I understand, I was born because of the Loma Prieta earthquake. I wasn't due yet, but my birth family lived in Oakland. The earthquake, from what I understand from my file, threw my birth mother out of bed and induced labor.
Oh, wow.
And so she went to the hospital, they left, and then they came back with no baby. So they were in the hospital for a few days because I was placed with my adoptive family when I was 5 days old as an emergency foster care placement. And then I stayed with them. That was a long-term placement with them. And then after like a year and a half, they hired an attorney and went through the adoption process.
Okay.
But from what I understand, none of my other siblings were. And I have one sister, and then I have 7 brothers, right? Yes. We'll say yes. So there's 9 of us.
Awesome. Well, that's so awesome that you are able to connect, though. Do you feel like now getting to see each other, getting to at least communicate, do you feel like that missing puzzle piece may be getting filled in by understanding?
Oh yeah, I think it's incredibly healing. I think between being a parent and then also connecting with my siblings is like very healing. It's a very like healing, very affirming process. It's really exciting. And just also being able, I remember like the first time we all got on a Zoom call together and I was like, oh wow, like we all look the same. Like this makes a lot of sense.
That must feel really cool coming from a place of being adopted and not seeing that.
Yeah. So it was like immediately like really exciting and I loved it. And so, and even like our kids look similar. One of my brothers has a little boy that is, I want to say like maybe a year and a half older than my daughter. And they look so similar to each other. It's so cute. So it's exciting to like see that. Yeah.
I'm glad you found that.
Yeah, me too. Because just the whole growing up, how I did was kind of brutal. And my parents were a lot older as well. So all of their birth children were
just different
out of the
in so
house.
many ways.
Yeah.
Also age, such a huge age difference, racial difference, cultural, money maybe. I mean,
and I think that like that caused a lot of like rifts too, because my parents were more financially stable when they just had me in the house than they were when they had like their birth children in the house. They had 5 kids, or they had 5 kids total. They had 4 kids that are their birth children. 1 from my mom and dad and 3 from my mom's first marriage. So the money was tight. And so by the time when I came around, they were like in their late 40s and they're like, yeah, we can go to Disneyland. Like we can afford to do things we couldn't do before.
Yeah.
And so then my siblings resent me because they're thinking, they're like, wow, you just got this childhood that we never had. You got to go to Disneyland. You got a Barbie Jeep. You got all this shit. And I was just like, yeah, but like, they know your kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're around for your grandkids. Like my dad's not gonna walk me down the aisle.
Yeah.
I knew my parents were never gonna see me have kids. I knew that like I watched my parents bail out my siblings so many times, and I knew I was never gonna get that. Like I knew once I moved out, well, tough shit. Like I'm on my own because they're gonna be gone, and then I don't have a fall plan. I don't have a place to crash. I don't have, I don't have any of that. Yeah. So I think that's sort of like a grass is always greener sort of situation, but also just like the validation that they had of like being related, like being biologically related to like a group.
Yeah.
Is just, there's no possible way to like know how it feels like to not have that, I guess. But for me,
so
it's
yeah,
just, like,
I got to
empty.
go to Disneyland a couple times.
Yeah,
right?
I got to go to Disneyland, but like I would have rather had some siblings,
been
had some kids.
Related.
Yeah.
You being a Black woman and Ben being a white man, how do you feel like culture plays a role in maybe challenges you may have with parenting?
I feel like there's a lot of times where like I feel compelled to take the lead on a lot of things because I'm the one that's like so mindful that I'm raising like a Black woman, right? And I am very aware that she's a mixed race child. She is white and she's Black, but like she's out in the world. People are not going to look at her and be like, well, that's a white girl because that's not how she looks. And so I think we have conversations about ways that she is perceived out in the world and how even though she is so young, like she will not always get the same grace that other babies get when they're, out and being babies. And in addition to that, I think like something that I can think of off the top of my head, I know that there are like deeper things that have happened that I'm just like having trouble pulling. Yeah. But specifically when I think of times where Ben is out with our daughter and I am not there, I am so particular about like, how are you doing her hair? what is she wearing? I need you to send me a picture of like what you're going to put her in before you send her out. Because I've like this weekend, for example, I'm working at Rooster Tea Feathers. I have not been home since Friday. And he's been out and like doing things with her. Like they went out to
what does her hair look like?
Exactly. They went out to a museum. They went out to breakfast, and I told him before I left, I was like, I'm gonna need you to send me a picture every morning. What are you gonna put her in? What are your shoes planned? How are you gonna do her hair? And he's done okay. Like there's room for improvement, but enough that like, yes, this is a child who she has
taken care of,
curly hair that is tended to, you know, and we're constantly learning. But those are conversations we've had to have. Is like, you can't just take her out to Target in her pajamas. Like if you're going to take our daughter out of the house, like she has to be in clothes, and and her hair needs to be nice. It needs to be done.
Wow. I've never really thought about that. I guess that's a privilege of mine, is not really thinking about how you may be perceived or how your child may be perceived in just comfy, relaxed clothing when out.
And I think a lot of it, I'm sure like there is some of it that stems from just like ego, from feeling like I don't ever want, like this child is clearly mixed race and the other parent is definitely like the ethnic parent.
Yeah.
So, and especially since he's the dad, it's like, well, what's the mom doing? Like, why is this baby out here looking like this?
Yeah.
Where is mom and what is she doing? Because she's not doing her child's hair and she's not putting her in clothes.
You want to make sure you and the parts of you that are reflected within Remy are reflecting your blackness in a proud way where you're like, yeah, I'm here. I'm taking care of her. She's taken care of. You know, so
and I think like some of it, I will admit, like stems from like insecurity too, where I just like want to make sure that like, because some of it is I just need the validation of like, I want the world to know that I'm a good parent, which is
of course
I think everybody wants to be a good parent, but I don't know how much it matters how other people perceive it. But so that's something that we've kind of dealt with. I've had really bad anxiety, so that probably has a role too in like, what is she wearing? I need to know everything about her and what she's doing so that I'm like at ease, because ever since I had her, I've had very gnarly postpartum anxiety. I've had anxiety my whole life, but it's gotten a lot worse.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of like catastrophizing. When she was 6 months, I would have like these like repetitive, just like visions of really bad things happening, like her falling, or you know, her shirt or her onesie coming undone and getting stuck on her head, or like things like that. I was never like depressed or hopeless, but I was always just very, very, very anxious, and that was really rough. So I think that plays a role in it too, where I'm just like very kind of obsessive because I'm constantly in a state of worry. I'm on medication, but you know.
Well, then, so I'm excited to move to this question then with your state of worry, because I do also state of worry, and I think about, I know that disciplinary wise within schools, I feel like I've read an article recently which is talking about how, you know, children of color are getting disciplined much more severely in school environments as opposed to white kids. And I guess if you have thought about it yet, how have you thought about better preparing Remy how have you thought about better preparing your daughter for facing disciplinary discrimination in the school?
I think like, I feel like, a lot of that has to do with like being aware that I'm raising a Black child, is like making sure that from a young age, she is very confident in her own self-advocacy. So being able to like speak specifically to like, okay, so I understand this is what I've done and this is what's happening. Like being able to, because obviously like she's never going to be in charge if she's in the classroom, if she's being disciplined, but to be able to like verbalize, that's what I want to teach her, is enough to be able to vocalize, well, this is what I understand to be happening. I want to make sure that that's clear, so that she can come home and let me know, and then I can handle that accordingly, whether it's pulling her out of school and putting her in a different school. I don't know what it is, but because that happened with me. I had a very disciplinary third grade teacher who did not like me specifically, and she was very verbally abusive. And my parents had to pull me out of school, and she was abusive to me, and she was abusive to two other girls. And this was in Fremont. When I went to school in Fremont, I went to Durham Elementary.
Hey, I went to Durham Elementary.
Did you really?
Shut up. Yeah. I went to Durham Elementary.
I went to Durham and I got pulled out and went to Maddows.
Oh my God. Yeah, I went to Durham for a couple years and then went to Horner. Wow, look at us finding this out.
What year did you graduate high school?
I graduated high school 2004.
Oh, okay. I'm 07.
What about you?
07.
Okay, yeah.
So we were probably, we might have been at Durham at the, probably maybe at the, maybe at the same time.
No, but so yeah, we were talking about disciplinary action and
yeah, the point was just that I had an abusive teacher who did not like me. There were a set of twins that were Indian girls in my class, and we were the 3 people of color in that class, and our teacher abused all of us.
And it causes such a loss of innocence, I think, for kids that are of color to face these things, this discrimination, loss of innocence, but also to have to grow up to have such a high level of awareness, like the way you're talking about Remy being able to advocate for herself, having that awareness, and then also having the awareness of how society in other situations may treat you. Like I know a lot of parents talking to their young boys, and it's just I guess it's sad, but at the same time, it really makes me so happy to know that young people are having more awareness of just things on how to communicate, not to say that this is good in any way, but it's great that you're teaching her those communicative skills.
Yeah, I want her to be able to like set boundaries with people. We're working very hard on that.
Yeah.
Just like, we don't force hugs. We don't have to eat things we don't want to eat.
So speaking of boundaries, you say boundaries and you're talking about anxiety and how you're a mom. I want to understand how you set boundaries on being able to just be you. Tell me about the experience you've had of maintaining being Becky, not Becky the mom.
Yeah, just being me.
Because I haven't known you as Becky the mom. The last time I saw you, you were not a mom.
Yeah. I feel like the last time was I even pregnant the last time I saw you?
No, it was before COVID. It was your audition for Punchline.
It was. And I passed.
Yeah, you passed. I remember we all went and got a beer after.
Yeah.
Hey.
That was being me now is very different. But I will say I am so blessed to have a partner that is very supportive in maintaining my own autonomy. Yeah. So we had a lot of conversations when I was pregnant where I was like, this is what stand-up looks like. How does this seem for you? Because that is a part of who I am, right? But I also understand that like it's a job. So he is like very supportive and like being like, hey, you need to take some time to just like do a you thing. And that helps a lot. But in addition to trying to find that space, there is a lot of guilt. There's a lot of like expectation, like, well, why are you out doing stand up when you have a baby at home? Or why are you, like leaving town overnight? What are, how do you trust your partner to like be good at being a parent?
Which sucks because it's like, what? He had the baby too. I trust him because he's
we
just
made
like
it.
me.
We're together. Like we know how to do all of the things. And I do think about that too. Like I have a fair amount of friends that don't have the same dynamic that Ben and I have when it comes to parenting, because we really are. I'm a control freak.
And that dynamic you mean by like both
really co-parenting. Yeah. It isn't like we are both home. We both work from home. We can switch off. If anything, I would say that Ben, the skills are, nothing is ever equal in parenthood and never will be. But when it comes to like her care, I think that he tips the scale more in caring for her than I do. Just like diaper changes, laundry, meals. Because right now I'm back in school right now and I'm working my day job. I'm doing comedy. I'm trying to be just like have relationships with my friends outside of comedy, which is like the hardest part.
You're focusing on all the slices of your pie to be a well-balanced woman.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with when people are like, oh my God, so where is she?
I ask, like, I always answer like very clearly. I'm like, she's with her dad. And then sometimes I get like, they'll say something slick about it. Like, oh, wow.
Oh, he's not a moron.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I had a baby with a very competent man who I trust.
It's like, oh, you decided to have a baby with an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What do you feel like you do do you do anything to let him know where you're like, this is, or actually, where you're like, I'm hitting a breaking point where I need to express my individuality?
I will say, not yet, but we are very, very communicative. Like last night, I was on the phone with him in a McDonald's parking lot and I was just like, I've not been doing enough school. I've been, I didn't like focus enough. I'm feeling burnt out. I'm not giving myself any grace. I'm stressed. And he is so good at, because I'm so anxious. So he's so good at being like, yeah, you're not supposed to be able to do all of these things. Like, we've both had a rough week. Everything is very overwhelming right now. This is a moment in time. This isn't representative of like all time. He is just like, he's so good at being supportive and being aware of what's going on, and when I'm like on the cusp of spiraling, because I do that. And I think, and so when I set boundaries with him, which I do sometimes do, where I'll be in our room and I'll be like, don't come in here. I just need some time. I need a nap. I need to just like watch a show. I need to just veg out. And he's just like, okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
That's really great that he's able to recognize where you may need help and feed you and water you in that way. Mm-hmm. That sounds really healthy. Yeah. And that's really important, I think.
Yeah. Well,
so I guess that leads
therapy.
Me. Yeah, right? It's a very important thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that leads me to my last question, which we ask everyone that comes here is, how can someone better love you in any sense? Maybe as being yourself through with your partner, or your mom, as you as a mom, or you just as you. How can someone better love you?
Literally that question is, I think, how people, like, how I could be loved more is by being asked. Yeah. Like, I think that happens with my partner a lot.
I'm ready to love you, Becky. I'm ready to love you.
Thank you. Yeah. Like, having a conversation. How can I best support you? Mm-hmm. What is it that you need? Where can I fit into this? Can I do this for you? I think being, I don't know, me focused is the best way.
Yeah, because you've said that you like to manage certain things, and if someone else manages it, that may not help you.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think then that's like something that we go through a lot, where like I've talked about and been like, hey, you did this thing that wasn't the best way to support me. So like, maybe ask me. If you don't know, ask me. Like, hey, how can I support you? Because I'm not really sure what I'm doing is helping. Yeah. So asking.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Yeah. Was that a good answer?
No, that was a total good answer, because I feel like I like being asked too. I like talking about myself and what I need. Yeah. And if you give me the space to do so, even just doing that makes me feel better. Like, I'm like, oh.
So when do we get to do your podcast and like talk about you?
Yeah. I don't know.
You're gonna have to book a guest host.
I'm working on something for myself here, which is I'm trying to shut the fuck up sometimes. That's been the challenge of this podcast is really like, I would love to elevate others, and then this, I was like, oh my God, and me when I blah blah blah, like sometimes, and I'm like, no, and so I don't know. I guess whoever's listening gets to know me slowly through these little tidbits as they keep listening. But I really enjoyed our conversation.
Me too.
I feel like we're gonna have to do like a part 2 and like go more into depth in the other things like colorism. I want to know about Remy growing up half white, which means she's going to have a different experience of being a black woman than you, and like how you prepare yourself for that. Yeah. And, but we already ended this one.
We'll
so
do
I guess
a part
I'm not
2,
going to ask
but we'll come back.
Questions.
I'll bring a little price gun with I'm racist stickers on it.
I think we should, honestly, I see a sketch as that. Girl, we need to go to the fucking grocery store. We need to go somewhere, because I will spot it. I'll be like, that's racist. Racist. Anyways, all right. That was it for today. Oh, wait, drop your social media so everyone can follow you.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at that's Becky, OHTHATSBECKY. Like, that's Becky. Awesome. And that's also my website if you want to check out my stand-up. I have a clip on my website at that'sbecky.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Becky.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on.
Thank you for having me.
I had a good time.
I did too.
And I love that I learned stuff. I like laughing and learning.
Yeah. I feel like I didn't crack as many jokes, but
no, not everything is jokey. Oh yeah, I forgot to let me put my headphones back on. It gives it the podcast vibe. You do that, take a little selfie, so when I post it, I'm gonna be like, ooh, my guest.